first in a Paris court has granted former French President Nicolas Sarkozy early release from jail this Monday, pending an appeal. It was less than 3 weeks after he began serving a 5-year sentence for criminal conspiracy in a scheme to finance his 2007 election campaign with funds from Libya. The former president was jailed on October 21st pending appeal, but immediately filed for early release. He told the court earlier this morning by video link that life in prison had been a nightmare, while insisting he is innocent. The 70-year-old becoming the first ever former head of state, in modern times to be sent to jail. Joining me now from the courtroom is Camille Knight. Camille, just give us some further details as to what that decision was that was handed down by the court just now.
Well, we saw former President Nicolas Sarkozy sat at that table on a video call from his prison in La Santé, it's called, one lawyer on each side, nervously waiting for that decision to be made. It wasn't an unexpected decision for him to be released early from jail pending his appeal, given that even the public prosecutor had requested that early release. And after 3 weeks of being in jail, he will be going home potentially as early as this afternoon. Now, the judge laid out very strict parameters for that release. He's by no means going home a free man. He cannot leave French territory, for one. And also, he cannot be in contact with a number of people, including people from the Justice Ministry. Now, this is particularly important because, as you'll remember, Nicolas Sarkozy got a visit from the Justice Minister himself while he was in jail. Gérald Darmanin came to see him, and that sent quite an odd message. People interpreted it as a sort of message of support from the minister. The judge wants no such ambiguity in this case, so no such meeting will be able to take place again. But for the lawyers, this will definitely be seen as a victory. They were able to convince the judges that Sarkozy fit a certain number of criteria, that he was not a flight risk, that he had always abided by court orders, that he is someone that they could trust to come when they requested him to come to the courtroom, to not leave France, all of these things. And one of the things that he made clear as well was that the traumatic experience that he had during those 3 weeks in jail. He called it a nightmare, and that alone was enough to deter him from breaching any of the parameters that I mentioned there.
And what will it mean for Nicolas Sarkozy in the coming weeks and months ahead, keeping in mind that appeal case is slated for March?
Of course. Well, he is free for now, though he has to stay in France. He won't be wearing an electronic tag, which is something a lot of people had speculated might be part of those conditions. But of course, this is only temporary. As you'll remember, he's got an appeals trial coming up in March, so only a few weeks to prepare for that. And it very well may be that that 5-year sentence that he was handed is upheld. And in that, if that happens, there's a very strong chance he will be sent just straight back to jail. Now, his lawyers are probably thinking ahead already about how they can make sure that he doesn't serve his sentence behind bars, but rather at home. You'll remember Nicolas Sarkozy is 70 years old now. He'll be 71 by the time we get to the appeals trial. And that's something that they can take into consideration and use to convince the judge that it's better for Nicolas Sarkozy to carry out his sentence at home with an electronic tag. Sometimes something he's quite accustomed to, since it's something he's done for previous cases he's been convicted in. So this won't be kind of a new thing for the former president.
Camille, we're seeing images there from the prison, and we suspect that there are police vans either arriving or departing with possibly the president or former president inside. Camille, this is a case which has made international headlines, hasn't it? Because it is the first time ever that a former head of state was jailed in France. It's certainly a case, keeping in mind with what you just said about those terms in relation to the conditions of his early release, that he cannot meet with any members of the Justice Ministry, which just shows you what sort of political implications this trial has had.
Absolutely. I mean, this trial has been almost as judicial as it has become political, and Sarkozy has an army of supporters who've done everything in their power to discredit the decisions from the judges. They of course everyone maintains, including Sarkozy himself, that he's innocent. President Emmanuel Macron even invited Sarkozy to the Élysée just before he was incarcerated, but after his conviction. You had this visit as well from the Justice Minister, Gérald Darmanin, which has kind of blurred the lines between the political and the judiciary. So this decision as well, definitely a message sent that the line shouldn't be crossed, and that Nicolas Sarkozy will be judged in the same way as everyone else.
Camille Knight reporting there from the courthouse. Thank you. Now let's cross to France 24's Antonia Kerrigan, who's outside the prison where Sarkozy is being held. Antonia, we're just seeing images on a live feed of two police vans exiting the complex. We're not sure if indeed the president was inside or whether they're there to collect someone else. Do you have any further information at your end as to when he will be released?
It's not entirely clear, as you say. It's all very opaque, and of course, indeed, so were the windows on those two police vans that just exited the building. The consensus seems to be that that was not him, and that he's expected to leave in the other direction from the one that those vans took. So we believe he's still inside the compound. That said, there has been a bit of an acceleration of activity around here. We've seen more police vans arriving. We've seen more police officers on motorbikes arriving to secure the area, which does seem to give the impression that it's going to happen any minute. It could happen very, very soon, and that they're putting everything in place for a quick departure. Certainly, you can imagine that, as they said, they were there to preserve public order. So that is to say, in case of any kinds of protests or actions that could endanger the president or anyone else, you could imagine that they wouldn't want to leave it too long as well. Of course, it's the middle of a Monday. People are at work. People are probably busy, but the longer they leave it, the more chance there is, of course, that something, however minor, that something more could happen. So we're on tenterhooks. We're keeping a close eye. Currently no movement, but it will very likely happen fairly soon.
And Antonia, finally, the former president describing his 20 or so days in jail as a nightmare. What do we know about the actual conditions that he faced while in jail?
Well, we know a certain amount because there has been a certain amount of public interest in this uncharted, unprecedented event of a former president, also a recent serving former president, someone who people remember not so long ago as their president, then being transferred to a penitentiary facility. We know that he was put in isolation. He had a cell to himself for his own safety, a cell that was widely publicised in media, widely described, widely covered. It measured 11 square metres. And had its own kitchenette. However, we were told that he didn't cook, according to sources around him. He doesn't really know how to. He also declined to eat the meals offered to him by the prison for fear that fellow inmates might spit in, or worse, in his food. And so he's been subsisting on yogurts that he was buying at the prison shop. Now, we also know that in the lead up to his incarceration, he did a few tell-all interviews as he looked down the barrel of a prison sentence, one which could have lasted much longer than the time it will in the end have lasted. It will have lasted less than 3 weeks. But in principle, he was looking down the barrel of 5 years, and he said that he was taking in some reading matter. There was the Count of Monte Cristo, a very hefty volume in 2 tomes, and a biography of Jesus Christ. So a focus on the stories of the unjustly persecuted and in one case imprisoned, and or in another case martyred. And there has also separately been a great deal of controversy to do with the conditions in which he's been held. The suggestion that he might be getting special treatment in certain ways. Certainly 2 armed guards stationed outside of his door on a permanent basis. Those are not habitual prison employees. They were brought in specially. And he indeed received a visit from the Justice Minister, a personal visit during his second week behind bars. The Justice Minister wanting to see to it that the conditions were as they should be. That's certainly not something that every detainee gets, and it's something that the court seems to have reacted to. The prosecutors asked for a certain list of names to be prohibited from entering into contact with the former president, and the Justice Minister is on that list. The former president is not allowed to have any contact with Gérald Darmanin, as it is widely viewed to have been sailing too close to the winds as regards conflicts of interests, as regards mixing politics with judiciary, and of course the two men have a personal relationship. So it's been quite the generator of news these last 3 weeks that the president has spent behind bars. It'll be interesting to see what more we hear in the days to come. Of course, the former president will want to be careful what he says. He won't want to be provocative. He will want to, in some ways, remain a certain level of composure in the press as he is out on certain conditions, and the conditions were, of course, acquiesced to by prosecutors. It's not in his interests to knock their noses out of joint immediately following his release from prison.
Antonia Kerrigan reporting there from the prison, which we believe where the former president will shortly be released. Thank you.